Hello, Scooby Doo fans! Welcome to my Season 1 Episode 9 review of Scooby Doo Who Are You? So last time I continued my 2024 summer special with a review of Season 1 Episode 13 of the new Scooby Doo movies. I hope you guys enjoyed that. But of course today, I'll be covering Season 1 Episode 9 of Scooby Doo Who Are You, titled The Backstage Rage, which was released on November 8th, 1969. The short synopsis of the episode is, the gang investigate an abandoned theater where they face a spooky phantom and his puppets, who are all connected to a counterfeiting operation. So as per usual, I'll be watching Season 1, Episode 9 of Scooby Doo Who Are You on the Scooby Doo Who Are You, the complete series box set. This box set has every episode of Scooby Doo Who Are You, including the fake third season, which I've talked about plenty of times before, so I'm not going to go into that. But when it comes to this episode, I believe most fans love this episode. I've heard it praised by many fans in the Scooby Doo community, and it's considered one of the better episodes of the original series. And I believe in my original review, I rated it highly as well. So, does it live up to expectations? Is it still as good as I remember it to be, or is it overrated and isn't as good as everyone makes it out to be? Well, why don't we take a look at the episode to see whether I think it is a good or bad episode of Scooby Doo Who Are You? The episode begins with Scooby and Shaggy walking home from a pizzeria when a car rolls by and hits a bump, causing a violin case to fall out of the back window. Shaggy picks up the case and discovers it is full of money. Shaggy goes to call the gang, uncharacteristically, leaving Scooby to guard the violin case, which is a nice change of pace, as usually Shaggy and Scooby wouldn't want to bother with any sort of mystery, but instead they enlist the services of their best friends. The same car drives over near Scooby, and suddenly a poodle, whining and limping, attracts Scooby's attention. Scooby puts down the violin case and heads over towards the poodle, and two hands are seen picking up the violin case. The poodle giggles, and Scooby turns his head to hide his giggles, and the poodle is lifted and the car drives off. Now we later find out that this poodle was a puppet, and it doesn't make any sense how the man in the car could control that puppet while also stealing that violin case full of money. There's no way you could do both things at once, unless if maybe he had some remote controller or something like that. But honestly, I highly doubt it, so it's a bit odd. Scooby is confused, rightfully so, and sees that the case has been stolen. When the gang gathers, Scooby explains the whole situation. The gang searches the area and finds a puppet controller with Pietro's puppets written on it. And so, under the circumstances, the gang deduces that this was the work of counterfeiters, which is not the first deduction I would go towards, and it's a bit of a strange deduction to make. There definitely are many possibilities that someone could have for having a violin case full of money, not just counterfeiting. So it's a bit of a stretch that they would just go right to that. You know, there's probably other possibilities of why this strange man had money in the violin case. So Mr. Inc. decide to head towards Strand Theater, an old theater where Pietro's Puppets is located. They decide to talk with the doorman, whose name is Pop, and they fool him by signing up Scooby for an audition. But Shaggy finds a discarded counterfeit bill, and with the evidence, the gang leaves. However, in the van, Velma concludes that it's actually a real dollar bill, not a counterfeit or fake one, which means that the gang just stole $20 from this man. To be fair, they didn't know it was real, but yeah, still, they technically did steal money from this man. But also, to be fair, he's not a nice man either, as we learn later in the episode. And Fred, for some reason, discerns that the man left the real bill to throw them off and make it think that nothing was suspicious was going on at the Strand Theater, which is also a bit of a leap in logic, because sure, it's a possibility he could have done that, but maybe he just had a $20 bill lying around there. It's highly possible he could have just had his money in that drawer and it just happened to stick out. There could have been a multitude of reasons other than he planted it so the gang wouldn't be suspicious of his criminal activity. Again, just like the counterfeiting thing, there are many possibilities here. Like, it's a bit of a stretch to just say one thing. They definitely need to get more evidence to prove that that's the case. And they don't conclude that. Sure, we found out later on that this man is evil and his criminal activities, but we never find out if he did leave that real dollar bill as a way to throw them off or not. That was never explained, so I'm leaning towards it's just a 50-50. It might have been a leap in logic. So the gang decide to return and sneak past the sleeping doorman. The gang split up, and a phantom in a black cape begins to stalk the gang, trying to drop sandbags and set props onto them. There are many cool set pieces throughout. We get a nice joke from Shaggy about searching for clues, which is funny. We get the man dropping some sort of prop onto Shaggy, some backdrop on Shaggy. We also get another shot of the man dropping another backdrop onto Scooby, and then we see the man try to kill Velma with a sandbag, which was crazy how close that thing was to killing her. This man was bloodthirsty. He really wanted them dead, or wanted them out of there. He did not give two fucks if he hurt them. And then we get a cool scene of Shaggy and Scooby exploring the dressing rooms and looking for clues. And they play a little bit of dress up, which is a bit funny and entertaining, being their usual comedic selves. But we also get a little bit of a creepy moment as while Shaggy's wearing something called the Cloaked Cavalier, which is the same thing, that's what Shaggy calls it, and the villain, the Phantom in the black cape, is wearing the same outfit. But he's standing in the corner of the dressing room, stalking them in the same pose as Shaggy, and then disappears. It's literal nightmare fuel. Like, it's crazy. It's very creepy and scary. The scene starts out as fun and comedic, but then it ends really creepy and really scary really fast. And that's the great thing about Scooby Doo, how it can balance that tone. But I like the scene because it's a good blend of comedy and scare factor and creepiness, because this dude is a creep. He's stalking them in the shadows, and he disappears out of nowhere. It's very creepy.
Wow, funny races.
Hey, Scooby, check this. Pretty heroic, huh?
Yeah. What's this?
That's great. Hold it a sec. Aha! The Cloaked Cavalier.
What's Uzi? Huh? Uh-oh.
There were two of me? I don't get it, Scoob.
Give me. Huh? Who of you?
You saw somebody else dressed like me?
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
The gang see the Phantom and follow it into a room filled with empty violin cases under the stage. All the cases are empty. They are lured back on stage by the sound of an organ playing, and as they get onto the stage, they see the Phantom playing the organ. And then in a split second, the Phantom just disappears. No clue how he did that. Maybe there was like a trapdoor or something underneath him. I don't know how he did that, but he just was there, and then he disappeared as soon as the lights went off for a second. Suddenly, the gang sees Viking and pirate figures letting out battle cries while raising their swords, and the girl poodle shows up, and Scooby disables the dog from its strings, and they see that it is a puppet, just like I said it was earlier. And in this scene, we actually get an interesting character moment for Velma, as we get to see Velma be scared and cling on to Shaggy and be like, I don't want to look for clues anymore. It's probably the first time we've actually seen Velma be quite scared and not want to pursue this. But she had her friends there as support, so that was a good thing. But I kind of like that little moment that, showing that Velma, yes, can be scared of certain things. In the dog stuffing rests a money printing case for a $20 bill. They decide to confront the doorman, but they find out that he is just a life-size puppet. Holy shit, is this creepy. This is also like nightmare fuel. This is like a little horror movie at this point, with the amount of scenes that they're treading on horror movie ground with the scenes that they're going with in this episode. Shaggy decides to get the fuck up out of there after the stuff he's witnessed in that theater, but the door is unfortunately locked, and the Phantom in the black cape uses a bird puppet to steal the money printing case for the $20 bill, which means the gang have lost their only clue. And with Fred being pissed, he decides to tell the gang that they're going to return to the room underneath the stage, and they look around, and they find a secret room behind a giant violin case, or it might have been like a harp case, some instrument case. Inside, they find a printing press and piles of freshly printed $20 bills. The Phantom finds them and begins to give chase to them, and the chase scene is really cool. We get that him, of course, stalking and laughing in the shadows. He chases them into an underground area of some sort, but when he goes to the door is bolted, locked, and the lock is like broken off or something like that. So, and it's shown at the end of the chase scene that he somehow got back up onto the stage, which, unless if there was a secret passageway that the gang missed, or a secret trapdoor or something like that, I have no idea how he got back up on the stage when the door that was just bolted locked was pretty much broken off, and there was no way of them getting out, and the only other way out that we saw was the ladder that the gang used. But it's a quite cool chase scene because we get to see the villain, this Phantom, be quite menacing and creepy and laughing at them, and the gang have to, and this is the highest the tension builds as the gang are trying to figure out what they're going to do next. And it's a really cool chase scene. I like it.
You were right, Freddy. It's a big counterfeit operation.
It's him.
Right?
Double yipes. Let's get out of here.
There's a door up ahead.
You know my secret.
Golly, where's that voice coming from?
In this tunnel. Who knows?
It's a dead end.
This ladder's our only way out, but it's too dark to see where it goes.
We got no choice. Start climbing.
Where are we?
I'm not sure.
You have learned my secret. Now you can never go.
Come on, think of something.
Look, one man isn't too heavy. If we all push together, maybe we can throw him off.
Okay, let's go. Hey, where'd he go?
Where are we?
Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby all go back onto the stage, and the pirate and Viking puppet appear once again, but Velma realizes that they are, of course, just puppets. Scooby spots the Phantom working the puppets from a catwalk and corners him on a rope, uncharacteristically, like I said, as Scooby's not normally this brave, but in this episode, he is quite brave and goes right after the Phantom puppeteer, and that's really cool. Freddy pulls another rope, causing the villain to fall into a trap, with Shaggy putting a tuba on top of him. And the Phantom is unmasked as Mr. Pietro, who went by Pop the Doorman in this episode. He tried to play off like he was a different person to Mr. Pietro, but he was Mr. Pietro. We actually don't see the unmasking. It's done off screen, and then we just see him in the cop car next, unmasked and in handcuffs behind in the back seat of the cop car. So with Pietro now in a cop car, the gang explains to the officer that he pretended to be the doorman to throw himself off suspicion and was scaring everybody away from the theater so his counterfeit operation would not be discovered. Shaggy adds that the real hero was Scooby, but he doesn't know where he is. They spot him at the stage door entrance wearing a magician's hat and cape, and the episode ends with Velma responding by calling him a ham, to which Scooby replies with his famous catchphrase to end the episode off. I'm going to give Season 1, Episode 9 of Scooby Doo Where Are You? 4 stars out of 5. Yeah, this is a pretty good episode. I still like it. I still consider it one of the better episodes of the original series. It's definitely still one I really enjoy. Obviously, I have some issues with it. There are some negatives that I have with it. So I'll go into those first before I get into the positives and why I think this is a really good episode. Starting with the negatives, the first negative that I have is that I thought Daphne was weak in this episode. I wasn't really happy with what they did with her in this episode. She kind of was just there and didn't really serve any function in the story. I don't think she didn't help. She was there collectively with them when they would find clues, but she didn't find any clues individually. She wasn't really much of a leader, and I don't think she was as cowardly or scared as Shaggy and Scooby. She kind of was just there, and I don't feel like they did enough with her, so yeah, Daphne in my mind was just pretty weak in this episode. The motive of the villain was very bland and plain. So his motive was that he wanted to scare people away from his counterfeiting operation. But it really isn't that interesting. It just was him, it just is very plain, generic money motive. And there's not many layers or intrigue into the motive. So, like I said, I don't mind a money motive if it does something unique with it. But because this is like a counterfeiting money operation, it's just like a little too plain and bland for my taste. I think they were they were very vague about the details of the operation and, what he was getting out of it. So I can't justify calling this a good motive because I just don't see much going on with it. It's just a very plain and boring, money motive. And I think, there are unique money motives in the series. There are motives that stand out so the problem is that it's not a money motive. The problem is that there isn't enough layers to it to make it a unique money motive. There was a lack of suspects in this episode. We only had one suspect, which was Pietro, who went by Pop the Doorman throughout most of the episode. So they tried to throw us off by making us think that Pop the Doorman and Pietro were like two separate people, but in the end they were the same person. And honestly, he was the only guy we saw, so it was either going to be him or it was going to be someone that we hadn't seen before, and either one kind of stinks. I wish they had maybe beefed up the suspects a little bit more. Maybe if Pietro and Pop the Doorman had been separate, maybe that would have been good, because at least would have been the bare minimum. Had they made like a separate character called Pop the Doorman and a separate character called Pietro, that could have solved some issues with the suspect department. But by making them one and the same person, he's just going by a different name, it kind of makes it, it kind of means that there's only one suspect and there's not really much mystery to who it could be. And finally, there really wasn't much of a mystery in this episode. There was the potential to have a mystery here, but because the gang revealed their suspicions of it being a counterfeiting operation too soon to the audience, it kind of took away the opportunity to make a mystery. I think had the gang been vague about it, or had they been wrong and had it been something else, it could have worked. But by them explaining to the audience that they knew that it was counterfeiters, and that ended up being correct, there was essentially no mystery, because we knew what the money in the violin cases meant, what it could be, because the episode pretty much spilled it out to us. So there wasn't much of a mystery here. Had maybe the gang been a little more vague with their suspicions and been like, oh, I think I know what's going on, but let us confirm it first before we jump into it. And they did a lot in this episode where they kind of made leaps and jumps into conclusions, leaps in logic and jump to conclusions on things that they didn't have 100% definitive proof on. They thought Pietro put the money, the $20 bill there to throw them off, but they have no proof that he did that. And it's never explained at the end. So it honestly could be 50-50. He maybe could have done that. But there's also the other fact that maybe he just fucking had his money stored in the drawer and they just robbed him of $20. It's the same thing with, the gang revealing their suspicions. I don't mind that the gang, deduce quickly what's going on. I just wish that maybe they either had been wrong about it, or, you know, had been thrown off about it and it had been something else, or had they been right, but they just, you know, kind of made it a little more vague. Been like, okay, I think we know what, I think we're all thinking the same thing. We know what this could possibly be, but let's check first to make sure this is what's going on. And that way the audience isn't on the same, you know, isn't ahead and knows what's going on, and then, you know, essentially there's no mystery by that point. So had they done that, either of those two things, I think we could have had a good mystery. But because they didn't, and because the gang revealed their suspicions too soon, we ended up with really no mystery and nothing to really try to solve here. That's all I got for negatives, though, so I think it's about time we get on to the positives of the episode. What brings this episode up for me? What makes it a really good episode? Well, we'll start off with the rest of the members of the gang first. So starting off, we have Fred, who I thought was pretty good in this episode. I found him to be a good leader, and he was very proactive in wanting to solve the mystery. He was quite pissed when they took the clue from, you know, of the engraving plate of the $20 bill. You know, he was pissed that, you know, the villain took it back. But, you know, he was very engaged in this mystery. He wanted to solve it. He led the gang, you know, throughout the way. He was like, you know, what was actually cool at one point, which is something I didn't bring up, is that Fred went off and investigated somewhere on his own. Daphne and Velma paired off as like a little girl team together, and then Shaggy and Scooby paired off in another direction. So I thought that was interesting that Fred was by himself for a little bit, but he did get Daphne and Velma's attention just before the guy, you know, the puppet master revealed himself. But I thought Fred was good. He served his basic function. He was a good leader. He led the gang throughout the mystery, and he wanted to solve it. He was proactive, and he gave Scooby a hand at the end to trap the villain, which I thought was cool. Velma was pretty good as well in this episode. She did find a couple of clues that, you know, helped, you know, confirm all their suspicions from earlier, and it was kind of cool to see Velma get scared in this episode and be kind of frightful and not so, you know, dismissive of, you know, threats. Because a lot of times, you know, Velma will be, like, very dismissive of the supernatural or threats towards her. But it's kind of cool that in this episode, Velma did sense the danger and did get scared, like the rest of the gang. But you know, she had the rest of the gang with her, so, you know, they got her through it. But I thought it was cool that she had that little moment of being scared. And I also like that she pieced together the clues to confirm their suspicions and deduce that, yes, this is, our suspicions from earlier are true, and it is a counterfeiting operation. And then, of course, we have Shaggy and Scooby. Shaggy and Scooby were, of course, very funny in this episode. But not only that, they were very brave and proactive in this episode. So normally, Shaggy and Scooby, when they come across a mystery, they don't want to have anything to do with it. But in this one, when Shaggy and Scooby were walking home from the pizzeria and noticed some suspicious activity, he decided to get the gang involved in it and get their help. Which I thought was cool, that, you know, Shaggy decided, you know, was actually interested in figuring out what they had just encountered. And so I think that was cool that, you know, when they stumbled upon a mystery, rather than Shaggy and Scooby running away, Shaggy was like, you know, let me go phone the gang and let's figure out what's going on. And I thought Scooby was great at the end when he just chased down the villain. He saw where the villain was, he went up after him, and that gave Fred and Shaggy the chance to create this little impromptu trap at the end, where Fred gave Scooby a hand by, you know, dropping down the puppet master, and Shaggy using the tuba to, you know, keep him trapped in, some type of drum or something like that. So I thought that was cool. I think Shaggy and Scooby, you know, were just not, you know, not just funny in this episode, but they were also brave and proactive in this episode, which I thought was a nice change of pace. Like I said, like, I don't need Shaggy and Scooby to have forced bravery. I don't mind if they're cowardly. I love that about them. But if it's natural bravery and proactiveness, like in this episode, where it's not, you know, where it's early on, they're still figuring out the characters, and we got to see that, yeah, sometimes Shaggy and Scooby are a little interested in the mystery, if it seems a little bit interesting to them. So I kind of like that trait about them. And, you know, like I said, you know, I don't mind bravery with Shaggy and Scooby as long as it's not forced. When it's forced, then I don't like it. But when it's natural for, you know, for the characters, and I feel it's natural, then I actually do like it. Then we have the villain of the episode, and I thought the villain was great. So the villain was, of course, the Phantom Puppet Master, or Puppet Master as he's called. Or if you want to call him the Cape Cavalier, as Shaggy, you know, puts on the same outfit, you could call him that as well. But he's mainly called the Puppet Master. So I thought the Puppet Master was a fantastic villain. He was quite scary, but also entertaining to watch because of his maniacal, evil laugh and the way he would stalk the gang in the shadows and, you know, kind of try to either scare them or kill them. You know, he did a lot of dangerous things in this episode. This villain was not light. He didn't, you know, about his actions. He wanted the gang out of his way no matter what. Whether that would be scaring them or killing them, it did not matter to him. He just wanted them gone. He didn't want them finding his operation, and that to me is a good, scary villain. Not just that, but the fact that he would always be in the shadows, stalking the gang, laughing maniacally. He was quite creepy in this episode, and honestly, I feel like he's a bit of an underrated villain, as he's not praised as highly as he should be, because he's quite a scary and effective villain. And I think he's one of the best villains of the original series. He's very scary, but he's also quite delightful to watch because of how evil he is. But he's also scary because of the way he stalks the gang in the shadows, and he doesn't care what he has to do to get rid of them. If he scares them off and gets them off the property, great. But if he kills them and has to dispose of them bodies, you know, he doesn't care either. Great as well. He doesn't have to deal with them anymore, and he can just continue his operation. The fact that he didn't give a shit whether they lived or die is a really scary and effective villain. So to me, the Puppet Master was a fantastic villain and easily one of the major highlights of this episode. I thought Pietro, or Pop the Doorman, like I said, as he goes in this episode, the alias he goes by in this episode, I thought he was good outside of costume. He had, you know, we got to see him showcase his puppeteering skills, which obviously made him a suspect for later once we figured out that these were puppets. So even though there was only one suspect in the episode, I do like that they kind of showcased his skills a little bit beforehand. And he also acted a bit strangely. Obviously, you know, he noticed the gang, like, try to get an audition for Scooby, and then they run out as soon as they find the $20 bill because they think it's counterfeit. And obviously he's suspicious of that, and rightfully so. But he still was strange in a manner with the way he looked at them. So he clearly knew that something was up. So I thought he was good outside of costume. He made an impression. We got to see him showcase his skills. And he acted quite strangely, which made him an effective suspect, even if there was only one suspect in the episode. I thought the clues were good as well. So you had pretty much the violin case with the money. You had the plate engraving of a $20 bill. And of course, you had the printing press. These were all great clues and obviously enhanced, you know, the knowledge, you know, enhanced, you know, this, the gang's suspicion and made it even more obvious that, yes, this was indeed a counterfeiting operation. And this pointed towards to Pietro's ultimate motive, his goal, what he was doing. So I like clues that, like I said, I like clues when they point towards a motive, and the clues in this episode did do that, so I'm quite happy that they did. But they also showcased his skills, because some of the clues were found, like the plate engraving with the $20 bill, that was found in the puppets. So I thought the clues were good. They set out what they needed to. Then, of course, we have the atmosphere of the episode, and my god, the atmosphere is amazing in this episode. Quite a creepy, dreadful, eerie atmosphere. And it's mainly due to the fact because of the villain and his scary actions. The villain is a big reason why this is a good, you know, the atmosphere is quite good, because of how dangerous he is and what lengths he'll go to get rid of the gang. But I also found that the setting was kind of, you know, also enhanced the atmosphere a little bit, because you're in this dark, closed theater at night, and it's quite a creepy setting. And the fact that the villain's using things in the environment to try to get rid of the gang by either scaring them or killing them, that's quite effective. So I feel like the atmosphere was enhanced due to the fact that the setting and the villain were strong. You know, the villain used some of the pieces in the setting to do his threatening and scary actions, but he was also creepy on his own just by stalking them in the shadows, and the way he looked, of course, but also just the setting in general. Like, just this dark, closed theater at night is a very creepy setting, and I'll get onto that in a little bit. And finally, like I just said, I found the setting to be good in this episode. So the main setting was, of course, the Strand Theater. I thought the Strand Theater was good. I think it was creepy because of it was like I said, it was this dark, closed theater. A theater, it's kind of like the amusement park from the last episode. A theater is normally a packed place where you go to see shows, whether it's plays or, stage acts, something like that. Normally this is a packed area, but seeing it dark and closed at night is quite creepy. And, and the fact that it was empty and, it's dark in there, there's barely any light, it's a creepy place. Add on to the fact that there's this creepy villain doing these criminal actions and is trying to either scare the gang away or kill them. That only makes the setting even more better. So to me, I really like the setting of this episode. It's something new we hadn't seen in Scooby Doo Where Are You before this point. A theater was quite new, and I think it was a good choice for a setting because a theater can work as a creepy setting. It can be creepy at night when you're in a place that's normally packed, but it's empty and it's dark and closed, and you have this lingering thought in the back of your mind that something might be going on in that place, like a creepy man doing these criminal things and might try to do harm to you. That really makes for an amazing atmosphere and setting. So the setting was really good. Great choice of setting. Overall, guys, I would recommend this episode to fans and newcomers to the show. While it's not a 5 out of 5 episode and isn't perfect by any means, it doesn't matter. It's still a very good episode. It's one of the best of the original series. And to me, it still stands up well to this day. And probably doesn't get talked too much about outside of mainly a fair amount of Scooby-Doo fans. This is an episode that doesn't get as much praise as it should, especially the villain. Like, the villain isn't talked about as much as he should be, and I think he's a great villain that really deserves more discussion because he's such a fantastic villain. Had they cleaned up a few things, this could have easily been a 5 out of 5, but it's still a good 4 out of 5 episode, and I do recommend it. Go and watch it. It's a good, creepy episode with a little bit of comedy in it, but for the most part, this is a quite creepy and eerie episode. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give it a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like this episode, or you like me? Do you consider it one of the best of the original series and consider it a good episode that maybe doesn't get as enough recognition as it should? Do you hate this episode? I'd be interested in that as well. Is this an episode that you're not fond of? Do you see more problems with it than me? Or are you somewhere in the middle where you think it's okay, but it's not good or bad? I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby-Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content, I will, of course, have more Scooby-Doo reviews to continue my summer special. I'm almost at the end of the summer special, but next month will be Scooby month, as September is the month where I dedicate to Scooby, because that's the month that birthed Scooby. That's when Scooby's birthday is, and I like to celebrate it by giving a whole month dedicated to Scooby. So if you're into Scooby-Doo, but of course, I'm a Scooby-Doo focused channel. I love Scooby. I love the franchise. I love the characters. So this will not be the last of Scooby. Scooby will be getting tons of attention down the line. So if you're like me, and you're a diehard fan of Scooby-Doo, but you only see like the popular stuff get reviewed, but not all pieces of Scooby-Doo media, come join the channel, because I plan to review all pieces of Scooby-Doo media, not just the stuff that's considered popular by casual and mainstream audiences, but the stuff that deserves more love and attention that actually is good or could be bad. But I like to go into all pieces of Scooby Doo media and give them the attention and love they deserve. So if you're like me and you think, you know, more Scooby Doo media deserves more attention and love, then come join the channel, because I have plenty more Scooby Doo content on the way. You can also follow me on Facebook, where I have discussions about things we talk about on both my channels, and Twitch, where I hope to live stream in the future. So in my next video, I will continue my 2024 summer special with a review of Season 1, Episode 14 of the new Scooby Doo movies, which is the Jerry Reed episode. I believe I probably should conclude my summer special, my 2024 summer special, with that review, unless if there are 2 videos up this weekend at the time of this recording, or at the time this is a release, actually, or if there's 2 videos up next weekend. But otherwise, the Jerry Reed one should be the last one to end my 2024 summer special. But of course, after that, I should most likely begin Scooby Month with, you know, by concluding my re-reviews of Scooby Doo Wario with my Season 1 Episode 10 re-review of Scooby Doo Wario, Bedlam and the Big Top, which is the Ghost Clown episode, and it's the final episode that I plan to re-review, because the other ones I'm quite proud of, so I'm okay with the other ones. But we'll be concluding my re-reviews and finishing off with the Ghost Clown episode, and I loved that episode when I first reviewed it. Many others do as well. I have high expectations going into it. I hope we'll end on a high note, but we'll see if it still holds up just as well now as it did back then. So if you're interested in my updated thoughts on the Ghost Clown episode, Bedlam and the Big Top, then join me after the Jerry Reed episode review. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace out.
Where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby Doo, I see you. Pretending you got silver. You're not here with me, 'cause I can't see the way you shake and shimmer. You know we got a mystery to